Welcome to the Ment Up Lead Up podcast, an essential resource for all small business leaders and their CMAGs, consultants, mentors, advisors and coaches. Listen in to what our experts have to say and gain from their tips and ideas. I'm Michelle Estes, founder and CEO of the Ment Up Lead Up technique and author of published book In Business With Yourself. You're very welcome to the podcast today. Today we're going to dive into the extraordinary life of Lord Russell Baker, a renowned entrepreneur, sports enthusiast and philanthropist, whose autobiography, My Way, offers a glimpse into his incredible adventures. Praised as amazing and bonkers in equal measure, and a really interesting read. We're going to explore not just the thrilling stories, but also the mentors and advisors who have shaped his journey on the way. Lord Russell, you are very welcome to the podcast.
Michelle, it's an absolute pleasure to be on your show. It's one I've been looking forward to for a while now. So, wonderful. Let's have a great conversation.
I'd like to take you back, if you don't mind, into your early career, if I may. And the first sort of influencers, mentors, advisors that were in your life that really helped you to develop this diverse career path. What were they like and what sort of influence did they have?
Well, actually, it goes back further than that, Michelle, because as we've discussed before, sport and business are closely aligned. So as a youngster, I actually was mentored and guided by my sports teacher, actually, when I was at school as a footballer. And he was an ex-professional footballer for Aldershot Football Club going back. And his brother, John Mortimer, his name was Charlie Mortimer, by the way, his brother, John Mortimer, played for Chelsea in the 60s and ever-present player for Chelsea. And he came to my school as well and taught me technical drawing just after he was sacked as Portsmouth manager. And there's a great story around that as well, because he then went off to manage Benfica and became an icon. But both of those individuals as professional footballers understood my character as a person. They understood I loved football and was a good player, by the way, as well. But they also understand I had the mental agility to see things in a very different way. So they taught me the arts of playing football, but at the same time, some business level as well. So at a young age, I was quite diversified and really learned the power of sport and business together. So it was quite a good start.
That connection by your teachers and the professionals in your young life, and the fact that they took you as you were, and they helped to develop the person that you were, rather than trying to superimpose preconceptions of what a journey should look like. And I think that's really important in our business mentoring and support, that we're actually recognizing the type of person and leader that we're working with and making sure that we connect in with that. I mean, I talk about 8 different types of business leader. And I think it's really important that we recognize that small business leaders in particular are different. And we need to connect in with that. And that's exactly what happened to you as a youngster that really helped you to grow your confidence and develop. I think that's a really important point.
I think it's a fantastic point to bring up. Being a business entrepreneur, being part of building up SMEs, you have to be, we are different, aren't we? We are completely different to most normal people. And people would say actually who are successful, or even unsuccessful at the moment, business entrepreneurs, they're unemployable because they think differently, they work differently. They couldn't be employed by anybody as such because they work in a different way, as I do too. You develop a certain way in your life that works for you. You have a lot of knocks along the way as well. Don't get me wrong, it's not pure success. We all have some really bad times, let's be honest. As a business entrepreneur, it's not an easy journey. But you're looking for that one thing that can get you through the door and you can work with and then progress with.
Entrepreneurship is, we talk about the scars on our backs. It's one of those journeys where you click up the stars on your backs. But I think that ideal of the loneliness and dealing with that, and so many people forget about that when they go into small business, that is actually quite often part of the norm. But interestingly, across your book, your interviews, your podcasts, you've interacted with a number of well-known names in the sporting and entertainment world. Some of them I recognise, some of them I don't. But I do recognise Steve Davies, Eric Bristow, Steve Wicks, And what inspiration or knowledge have you really drawn from these larger than life individuals? Because they are.
Well, they are all larger than life individuals, and they are individuals over the years I've learnt from as well. I mean, take Eric Bristow, for example. He is large, or was, sorry, he passed away sadly a few years ago. A very good friend of mine. We'd speak regularly, and I worked with him on a number of occasions, mainly at my charity shows. I've put on charity darts events around the world and stuff, and particularly in the UK. And he was great to work with, and I learned from him a lot. And what Eric used to say to me was, Russell, I don't like human beings. I prefer animals because animals can't stab you in the back. And then one day, Dave Chisnell's manager phoned me up one day. He said, Russell, what have you done with Eric Bristow? And I said, I've not done anything. We're good friends. He said, I know, that's the problem. We can't get our heads around because he talks about you, Russell, everywhere we go. And he doesn't like humans. What on earth have you done to Eric to make him change and be as friendly and as open about you as you have? And I think what that's all about is it's all about understanding Eric. I mean, it's one of the powers that you can associate with business as well. If you understand an individual and you can get on with them and work with them, that's great. But you can develop the same skill set with business as well. It's all about understanding their requirements, isn't it? And the people involved and befriending them in a nice way and just really understanding how their business functions and getting through to the right people to make it work and deliver your business plans.
And I mean, I always talk about this idea of putting the leader and the strategy together. And in fact,
Yes.
actually, you need to work with the leader. You also need to work with the strategy because otherwise, in a way, why are you there? But it's an important combination of the two. And I mean, it's interesting when you talk about the difficulties in the world of championship darts and look at Luke Littler. He's 17 years old. What
Amazing.
an incredible accolade for such a young person, but also, and given what you're saying, I think this is probably an important point, possibly to a certain extent, a burden at such a young age. So, with your advisory coaching hat on, that young
Mm.
person in front of you, what sort of things would you be saying to look at this point in time? Because he's got an incredible journey ahead of him, but he's also got a lot of challenges.
Yeah, he has got an incredible journey. He's won so much now as well. He is the world champion, of course. But you have to remember, he's still only 17. So at the base of all of this, he's still a young lad. And you've got to try and keep him on track, haven't you? You can't let him off road and go down dark roads. So it's all about good coaching, good management, keeping him on board and keeping him in the zone, right, in the light, really, because it must be difficult for him. It has to be difficult for him, as it is for any young person, to stay focused and stay professional. Because we were all young once, weren't we? Even myself, God, crikey, and we all have that wonderful feeling of going off and doing something really crazy. But he's got to stay focused. So it's all down to his team behind him, his coaching. I'm sure he's got more than one coach, his managers, his team, to keep him going in what he's doing and get him in the right areas and playing the right darts. Make sure he trains every day, keep focused.
Yeah, and the thing that comes to mind when you're talking is the whole idea of a family business. We can draw relations between those two things. We've got young people coming in to a second generation family business. In the UK, I think we have what, about a 30% survival rate from first to second generation. So massive challenges. And as you rightly say, Lord Russell, we have this young person who wants to do all the things that young people want to do. And yet they have
Mm.
this burden and responsibility of keeping the business moving to the next generation. And again, drawing those sort of linkages between those sorts of careers. And for young people going into family businesses, I'm a great advocate that they go off and live a little bit and see around them and then,
Definitely.
come back. But quite often, and more often than not, a lot of young people get drawn in very early on, sometimes to the detriment of the business.
Yes, and because you want to remember these days as well with social media and cameras, with mobile phones with cameras on. But now everyone's got their phones, they've all got cameras on, and as soon as something happens, the phones are out. And it's all over social media. So in Luke Littler's case, he has to be very careful what he does and where he goes and where he's seen. So that in itself needs clear and concise management and coaching. because it's so easy to make a mistake, isn't it? And
Mhm.
end up all over Facebook, for
Mhm.
example, in a uncompromising position. So yeah, it's a difficult thing. And then of course you've got to maintain your credibility, not just as a player, but as an individual, as a person. Maintain your own credibility, your style, and protect your family, protect your friends. It's a lot. It's a big task.
It
It really
is.
is.
It is. And it, again, just so relatable because, again, as an individual, a young person coming into a family business, they decide to do their own social media, or there's a
There is.
reputation in the community and there's a story that has been built up in that business over years. There's so much to be sort of linked in. So let's go back a little bit to my way. You have had some incredible adventures.
Oh,
Talk to me
have
and
I?
tell us about surviving the earthquake in
Ah,
Acapulco.
well, that was an experience and a half, I have to say, because I was living in living in Mexico for 2 years, and I've been to Acapulco a few times, as I've been to many places in Mexico. And on this particular occasion, in September 2021, I remember it absolutely so vividly. And I'd always said years ago, I'd love to experience an earthquake because I suppose that's my adventurous part of myself. It's just let you turn and say, I've been in one, I survived it. And then this particular day in
Sorry,
Acapulco
so did,
Bay,
did you actively go looking for an earthquake?
I didn't know, but I have actually just missed out on a few, actually, by a day or 2 days or even a few hours. They happened just after I left somewhere, for example. So
Okay,
I sort of,
my equivalent of that, Lord Russell, is I
yes.
happened to miss by one day Kylie Minogue visiting Portofino in Italy at one point. I'm much more on safe ground.
So there I am. I'm in Acapulco, had a lovely day on the beach, on the bay, beautiful, warm sea, wonderful. And I was there with my girlfriend, and we went upstairs into this hotel on the beachfront on the bay of Acapulco. And within seconds, the whole hotel just literally jumped up and down and side to side at the same time. So it wasn't just
Wow.
a sideways movement, it was going from left to right, but also up and down at the same time. And I knew straight away, this is an earthquake. This is what I've been looking for a number of years. It was one experience, Michelle. And we couldn't
Absolutely.
leave. We couldn't leave Acapulco till I think 2 days later. Yeah,
But you know,
earthquake.
yeah, my goodness. And I mean, we talk about survival in business, and my goodness, that's survival in life. But I suppose these things, they really do. And these parts of life really, we talk about tenacity an awful lot and the need for
Mm.
tenacity. And there's tenacity in bucket loads. You're really trying to, yeah, as we say, survive for your life. What would you take from all of your travels and all of those experiences and situations into your business world and into your business life? What are the key things that you think have been really important that you've brought into your business career?
Well, I think it's all about self-development, really, and awareness of what's around you. When you've been through some of these experiences I've been through with my global travels, there's been one or two dangerous ones as well, which we haven't talked about. They do make you as an individual, make you more aware of what's around you and what you need to be looking at and focusing upon. So I think you also get to understand how you work as an individual, but also how people around you also function in those moments of catastrophe. So learn how people think, learn how people act. And you can take that actually into your business world and adapt that as well. When you're negotiating or engaging with businesses and individuals, CEOs, CFOs, chairmen, the body language is crucial, isn't it, as well? But that's what you're feeding off people, aren't you? You're getting that energy from them.
Absolutely.
That's
And I think,
important too.
yeah, oh, totally, totally. And that's why sometimes I find it really difficult to understand why when you talk to business leaders and they think that, for example, going to a networking event or a seminar or a talk, as you're describing,
Mm,
that's an extra thing to do. It's not like part of the priority for the diary. And I'm quite often saying, but those relationships and the learning that you might gain in that 1 or 2 hours of the day can carry you through for a very long time. The messages can carry you through. The contacts that you make can carry you through those relationships. And you're quite right. I mean, digital communication to some extent has totally changed it, but that doesn't stop us being able to build those relationships and connections, which are hugely important.
very important.
And they always talk about the sort of the 6 degrees of separation, don't they? That if we really
They
look
do.
and dig, if there's someone we want to get in touch with, that if we sort of make those moves, there's probably only six, at the most, six people between us and the person we're trying to get to. And you mentioned Sir Alan Sugar. I mean, it's an interesting one because I talk about him in my book as well,
Oh,
because
wow, brilliant.
he's the epitome of entrepreneurship in the UK, isn't he? And
He certainly is.
to start out, I talk about him as the lifer actually, because it really didn't matter to him in some ways what business he went into. He was an entrepreneur and he just wanted to be in business. He started off, I believe, very young, selling floor mops to his neighbours, bought them in
That's
for
it.
50p and sold them on for £1. And there was the beginning of the empire of Sir Alan Sugar. I mean, true entrepreneurship. But I think importantly, we have different types of business leaders. They're not
We do.
all like that. And I think looking at people who maybe have a hobby and start off their business as a hobby and then they grow that into something, a lifestyle, creates a lifestyle, that's all okay too. And I think it's important that we recognize the differences as we're talking about, and we've talked about all the way through the podcast, those differences and the importance then of connecting them with those differences and those relationships.
Absolutely. And I can vouch for Sir Alan Sugar's starting because it's very similar to mine in some way. When I was a schoolboy, I used to work in a cinema in an army camp in Farnborough. And it was a brilliant army camp, it really was. But I was a projectionist. And I used to work 2 nights a week. It's quite incredible when you think about it. You wouldn't get these opportunities these days. And they're old carbon rod projectors. So I sit there watching the film, and in the top right hand corner, you get these two little stars appear. If you ever watch a film, you'll see them, or old films in particular. And that was the indicator to me to switch over to the second projector to put that one on. Now, before I started projecting these films on these 2 nights, I used to take one of the nights, actually, funny enough, was like a soft porn night. It was on a Tuesday. So I used to take these films and edit them. There's a big load of these reels in the room there, and I used to splice them and take out pictures that I thought were relevant, put the films together again. You'd never notice they were missing. So I'd walk out probably with, I don't know, about 12 different pictures, and maybe 15, and then go down to the market, get these viewfinders, put these pictures in, and sell them in the playground. So they cost me nothing, and I was selling them for about 50, 60 pence every week. And it's like, that's entrepreneurship in the same way as Sir Alan Sugar, I guess.
And people come to it at all different times in life as well. That's the interesting thing. We have people who
Mm,
actually go into retirement and then they start their first business. I mean, it is a journey and it's open and available to everyone. I talk about the fact that we develop our doctors for 5 years, we develop our
mm,
teachers for 4 years, we develop our hospitality industry, maybe through degrees for a few years, whatever it happens to be. But then we get entrepreneurs and we say, okay, well, there's a couple of days of training, and then, you're on your own. You need to employ people, you need to export, you need to grow the company, you need to,
mm,
the expectation. And I think that's why a lot of our entrepreneurs sometimes feel a little bit overwhelmed by what that
definitely.
expectation actually is.
It's
But
tough at
listen,
the top, isn't it? It really is. It's tough in that boardroom. It's a lonely job, actually, to be honest.
yes, and it's not one where sometimes people would say, "Oh, I want to leave my job because I want more time."
Well, no, and
Anyway,
you don't retire either, do you, Michelle? No one retires who's an
no,
entrepreneur. They keep
no,
at it. Now,
yeah.
I'll tell you a very quick story if we've got time. Barry Hearn's a prime example of this. Barry Hearn, of course, owns the snooker, the darts. His son runs the boxing. So I spoke to Steve Davis, who you mentioned earlier on in the show, and Steve, what is it with Barry Hearn? I said, it doesn't need to work. He's got millions in the bank, if not billions. I said, why does he carry on? He said, well, the truth is, Russell, if he stopped tomorrow, he'd be dead the following day. And that's the point I'm trying to make. When you're an entrepreneur like we are, like Barry is, for example, Barry Hearn and others, Lord Alan Sugar, you can't stop. And Barry Hearn's now, what, must be 84 years of age, I would think, maybe 85. And he's still going
I
because
mean,
it's a buzz.
absolutely. It's got nothing to do with money whatsoever, is it? It's to do with just approach and attitude. And
Exactly.
yeah, and that there's probably this continuous itch, if you like, to make things happen and work and connect people. And once you're
Exactly.
doing that as well for quite a long time in business, you just can't switch that off.
Well, none of that appeals to me at all. I'd still want to be traveling. I'd still want to be creating and looking for new opportunities and trying to make things happen because that's really what it's about. When you work at this level, that's what we're doing
Does that mean there's going to be
non-stop.
a My Way Volume 2 coming out?
The end of my way, it says, you think this is the end, but it's not. It's just the beginning. And that's how my first book ends. And it's absolutely correct, because I'm creating stories now. So there will definitely be another volume. There's no doubt about that. It's just a question of when.
We're living and listening to what's going to be in that book. Lord Russell, it has been an absolute honour to have you on the podcast. Your current book, My Way, is available, I believe, on Amazon. It's on Kindle and paperback formats for anyone interested. It's just been fantastic to bring that to life a little bit, those connections between what you've been doing, those adventures, and the business world, and it's been fantastic to listen to.
I appreciate it completely, Michelle. It's been wonderful being on your show, so thank you very much for the invite. But yeah, let's keep the conversations going.
That's it for this month. Thanks for listening in to Ment Up Lead Up, the podcast for all small business leaders and their CMACs, consultants, mentors, advisors and coaches.